My wife says she can replace me anytime. Most people replace their phones more often than that. Guess I'm built to last. Or maybe she's just lazy about upgrades. The thought crossed my mind as I watched Aubrey hold court at Danny's bar, her manicured fingers wrapped around a martini glass like she was posing for a magazine. She'd been going on for 20 minutes about how some women settle and how she knew her worth. Her audience of salon friends nodded along like bobbleheads, occasionally glancing my way with that mix of pity and curiosity people reserve for car accidents. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "Leon's sweet," she was saying, voice carrying over the Friday night crowd. "But sweetness doesn't pay for designer handbags, you know? I'm Leon Draper, 40 years old, and I fix commercial drones for a living. Not glamorous, but it pays well enough to fund my wife's boutique salon and her increasingly expensive taste in everything. Aubrey's 38, owns Lux Hair Studio on Morrison Street, and lately seems to think she's starring in some reality show where the goal is to publicly humiliate your spouse. I mean, look at Corbin," she continued, gesturing toward the corner booth where Portland's self-proclaimed fitness influencer was holding his own court. "Now that's what I call an upgrade. Corbin Lake, 29, 6'2", with the kind of abs that required more daily maintenance than my drone equipment. He'd been coming to Aubrey's salon for consultations about his social media image. Funny how those consultations always happened after hours. My best friend Miles nudged me from across our table. "You hearing this?" "Hard not to," I muttered, taking a long pull from my beer. "She's not exactly whispering." Tammy, Aubrey's best friend and professional gossip distributor, leaned in closer to the group. "I'm just saying, some men appreciate what they have. Others—" She let the sentence hang, eyes flicking toward me. "Others get comfortable," Aubrey finished. "They stop trying, stop caring about their appearance, their ambition, their performance in general." The last part hit like a slap. Maya, one of Aubrey's stylists, looked genuinely uncomfortable. She'd always been decent to me, unlike the rest of Aubrey's crew. She caught my eye and mouthed, "Sorry," before looking away. Miles leaned forward. "Man, you need to shut this down." "Do I?" I watched my wife laugh at something Corbin said from across the room. He'd been texting someone all night, probably her. "Maybe I should let her finish." "Seriously, Leon, this is getting ugly." But I was curious now. How far would she push it? How much of our marriage was she willing to torch in front of half the neighborhood? "The thing is," Aubrey continued, her voice getting louder as the alcohol kicked in, "I could replace Leon tomorrow if I wanted to. Snap my fingers, and I'd have 10 better options." The bar seemed to quiet down. Even the pool players stopped their game to listen. "Aubrey," Maya said quietly, "maybe we should—" "No, I'm serious." My wife stood up, swaying slightly. "I could walk out of here tonight with someone better. Someone younger, stronger, more successful. Someone who actually satisfies me." That did it. The entire bar was staring now. I felt heat creeping up my neck, but not from embarrassment, from something colder. I stood up slowly, finishing my beer. The bottle made a solid thunk when I set it down on the table. "You know what, honey?" I called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Let's test that theory right now." The silence was complete. Even the jukebox seemed to pause between songs. Aubrey turned toward me, her face flushed with alcohol and surprise. "What?" "You heard me. Replace me, right now, tonight. Pick your upgrade and walk out that door with him." I pulled out my wallet and dropped a 50 on the table. "But here's the thing. When you do, you're really gone. No coming back when the novelty wears off. No crawling back when reality hits. You make that choice, it's permanent." Corbin had stopped texting and was watching the show with obvious discomfort. Aubrey looked between us, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Leon, You're being ridiculous. Am I? You just spent 20 minutes telling everyone how easy it would be, so do it. I spread my arms wide. I'll even help you pack. The crowd was eating this up. Someone had their phone out, probably live streaming the whole thing. Aubrey's face went from flushed to pale in seconds. You're drunk, she said weakly. Stone sober, actually, unlike some people. I looked directly at Corbin, who suddenly found his beer very interesting. So what's it going to be? Time to put up or shut up? Aubrey's phone buzzed on the table. A text message lit up the screen for everyone to see. Can't leave my girl for you. This was just fun. The message was from Corbin. The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Aubrey stared at the phone, her face cycling through confusion, realization, and pure mortification. Tammy gasped audibly. Maya covered her mouth with her hand. I picked up Aubrey's phone and read the message aloud. Can't leave my girl for you. This was just fun. I looked up at my wife with mock sympathy. Ouch. Looks like your upgrade just downgraded you to a side piece. The crowd erupted in whispers and barely contained laughter. Corbin was already heading for the exit, his entourage trailing behind him like rats fleeing a sinking ship. Leon, please, Aubrey whispered, reaching for her phone. I handed it back to her. You know what? Keep shopping around. I'm sure you'll find someone who appreciates your unique qualities. I turned to Miles. Ready to go? I've got an early morning tomorrow. As we walked toward the door, I heard Tammy's voice cut through the noise. Girl, you really stepped in it this time. Outside, Miles shook his head. Damn, man, that was brutal. That was just the opening act, I said, pulling out my own phone. Tomorrow I'm calling my lawyer. But I wasn't going to tell him that. Not yet. Some surprises are worth waiting for. Monday morning, I sat in Patricia Hendrick's law office downtown, watching her flip through the paperwork I'd brought. Patricia was sharp, mid-50s, with silver hair and the kind of smile that probably terrified opposing counsel. This is interesting, she said, adjusting her glasses. You funded the salon entirely before marriage? Every penny, down payment, equipment, first year's rent. I have all the receipts. I leaned back in the leather chair. Aubrey thinks she owns it outright. But legally, she's been renting from me this whole time. We set it up that way for tax purposes, but she never bothered to read the fine print. Patricia's smile widened. And she doesn't know you're filing for separation? Not yet. I want to handle a few things first. Such as? I pulled out another folder. Joint accounts, credit cards, business partnerships. I want to know exactly where I stand before she starts trying to hide assets or drain accounts. Smart man. Most people come to me after their spouse has already cleaned them out. She made some notes. What about the house? Mine before marriage. Prenup covers it. You had a prenup? She insisted on it. Thought she was protecting her salon. I couldn't help but grin. Turns out it protects me instead. Patricia laughed. I like you already, Leon. This is going to be fun. After the lawyer's office, I drove to my workshop. Draper Drone Solutions wasn't much to look at from the outside. A converted garage in southeast Portland, with my name painted on a simple sign. But inside was where the magic happened. I'd built the business from nothing over 15 years, started fixing toy drones as a hobby, moved up to commercial photography equipment, then industrial inspection drones. Now I had contracts with construction companies, real estate agencies, and even the city for infrastructure inspections. Miles was already there, calibrating a new camera mount. How'd it go with the lawyer? Better than expected. I pulled up the security footage from Saturday night on my computer. Want to see something interesting? The timestamp showed 2:47 a.m. Corbin's Jeep was parked outside Aubrey's salon, and two figures were clearly visible through the front window. They're still at it, Miles observed. Even after Friday's disaster. Aubrey's persistent, I'll give her that. I copied the footage to a thumb drive. But Corbin's not as committed as she thinks. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Can we talk? It's about Aubrey. I showed Miles the message. Think it's a trap? Only one way to find out. Maya suggested meeting at Powell's Books, neutral territory. I found her in the coffee shop section, nervously stirring a latte she probably hadn't touched. Thanks for coming, she said as I sat down. I wasn't sure you would. You've always been straight with me, Maya. What's on your mind? She glanced around, making sure we weren't overheard. Aubrey's planning something. She's been asking weird questions about your business, your accounts, whether you keep cash at the workshop. What kind of questions? Like, how much equipment do you have? Are there cameras? Do you work alone? Maya leaned forward. Leon, I think she's going to try to rob you. That was unexpected. Rob me? She's desperate. After Friday night, she's convinced Corbin will come around if she can prove she's financially independent. She keeps talking about making a big move and showing everyone who's really in charge. I processed this information. Aubrey was many things, but I'd never thought of her as a criminal. Apparently, desperation brought out new sides of people. There's more, Maya continued. She's been telling clients that she owns the salon outright, taking deposits for services 6 months in advance. Big deposits. How big? Thousands. She's got a whole booking system for some kind of exclusive VIP experience that doesn't exist yet. So she was running a scam on her own customers. This kept getting better. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Maya looked uncomfortable. Because you've always been decent to me, and because Aubrey's going to hurt a lot of innocent people if someone doesn't stop her. I reached into my jacket and pulled out an envelope. Speaking of stopping her, what's this? Her new rental agreement, for the salon. Maya's eyes widened as she read the document. You own the building? I own the business, the equipment, and the lease. Aubrey's been operating under a verbal agreement that's about to become very formal. She's going to lose her mind. That's the idea. I stood up. Maya, I need you to do something for me. What? Be there when I deliver this, with your phone camera ready. Tuesday afternoon, I walked into Luxe Hair Studio like I owned the place, which technically I did. The salon was busy, 3 clients getting cuts, 2 more waiting, and Aubrey holding court at the front desk while Tammy got highlights. The smell of chemicals and expensive shampoo filled the air. Leon! Aubrey's voice was artificially bright. What a surprise. What brings you here? Business, I said, pulling out the envelope. We need to discuss your lease. My lease? She laughed nervously. Honey, I own this place. Actually, you don't. I handed her the papers. You operated under an informal arrangement that's about to become very formal. The salon went quiet except for the hum of hair dryers. Aubrey's hands shook as she read the rental agreement. This says I owe you $3,000 a month in rent, retroactive to last year. Market rate for a prime Morrison Street location. Very reasonable, actually. But we're married. This is my business. Your business, my building, my equipment, my initial investment. I kept my voice calm and professional. The marriage is ending, Aubrey. Time to formalize our business relationship. Tammy gasped. One of the clients under the dryer was craning her neck to listen. Maya had her phone out, just like I'd asked. You can't do this, Aubrey whispered. I can and I am. You have 30 days to bring the account current or find a new location. I turned toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Aubrey, you might want to check your credit cards. I've removed you as an authorized user on my accounts. What? The accounts that we're paying for this place's utilities, insurance, and supply orders. You'll need to set up your own payment methods. I left her standing there with the papers in her hands and her mouth hanging open. Maya's video was probably already uploading to social media. Outside, I called Patricia. Phase 1 complete. How'd she take it? About as well as expected. What's next? Now we wait. Desperate people make stupid decisions, and stupid decisions make our job easier. I didn't have to wait long. That evening, my workshop's security system sent an alert to my phone. Someone was trying to break in. The motion sensors triggered at 11:47 p.m. I was in my apartment above the workshop, supposedly asleep, but actually monitoring the security feeds on my laptop. The infrared cameras showed two figures moving around the building's perimeter. Aubrey and Corbin. How predictable. They'd parked 3 blocks away and walked through the industrial district in dark clothing, like they were in some heist movie. Aubrey had a crowbar. Corbin carried what looked like a gym bag, probably for stealing equipment. I watched them examine the front door, then move to the side entrance. Aubrey pointed to the window near my workbench, the one she knew I sometimes left unlocked for ventilation. Time to make this interesting. I activated the workshop's PA system and spoke into my phone. You know, most people just knock. They froze like deer in headlights. Aubrey dropped the crowbar with a clang that echoed through the empty street. "The front door's unlocked," I continued. "Come on in. Let's talk." I heard them whispering urgently, probably debating whether to run, but curiosity won out. The front door opened slowly and they stepped inside. I was waiting in my desk chair, feet up, casual as could be. The workshop's lights were on full brightness, making them squint after skulking around in the dark. "Breaking and entering?" I shook my head. "Aubrey, honey, that's a felony." "We weren't breaking anything," Corbin said, trying to sound tough. "The door was open. After you tried to pry open the window, I've got it all on camera." I gestured to the security monitors. High definition, night vision, audio. Really impressive stuff. Aubrey looked around the workshop with calculating eyes. Even caught in the act, she was pricing my equipment. "What do you want?" she asked. "Want? I don't want anything. You're the ones who came here." I leaned forward. "Question is, what do you want? Besides my stuff, obviously." "This is ridiculous," Corbin said. "We're leaving." "No, you're not." I held up my phone. "See, I've already called the police. They should be here in about 5 minutes, unless we can work something out." "Work what out?" Aubrey's voice was tight with panic. "A trade. Information for freedom." "What kind of information?" I pulled up my laptop and showed them Maya's video from the salon. It had been viewed over 2,000 times and shared across multiple social media platforms. "This is going viral. You're becoming famous, Aubrey, Portland's most entitled wife." I scrolled through the comments. "Look at this one. Imagine being so delusional you think you own a business your husband paid for." And this one. "Girl needs a reality check and a good lawyer." Aubrey's face went white. "Take it down." I didn't post it. Maya did. And it's been shared so many times, taking down the original won't help. I closed the laptop. But I might be able to help with damage control. "How?" "Tell me about the VIP deposits." Aubrey and Corbin exchanged glances. She'd obviously told him about the scam. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. Maya told me all about it. Thousands of dollars in advance payments for services that don't exist." I stood up and walked to my filing cabinet. "Funny thing about running a business. You have to pay taxes on income. Even fraudulent income." I pulled out a folder thick with printouts. Bank records, client receipts, social media posts advertising your exclusive packages. The IRS is going to love this. "You bastard," Corbin snarled, stepping toward me. "Easy there, fitness boy." I didn't back down. "You're already looking at breaking and entering. Want to add assault to the list?" Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. "Here's the deal," I said quickly. "You tell me everything about the deposits, how much, who paid, what you promised, and I'll tell the cops this was all a misunderstanding. Refuse, and you can explain to a judge why you were trying to steal from your estranged husband." Aubrey crumbled. 15,000. From 8 different clients. I told them it was for a new premium service launching next month. What service? I hadn't figured that out yet. The sirens were getting louder. 2 minutes, maybe less. And you were going to use the money for what? To prove to Corbin that I could be independent, that I was worth leaving his girlfriend for. Corbin's face went red. I never said I'd leave Jessica. You implied it. All those late nights, all those texts about how unhappy you were. I was getting free haircuts and highlights. You think I'd give up a successful relationship for someone who doesn't even own her own business? The look of devastation on Aubrey's face was almost worth the months of humiliation she'd put me through. Almost. The police knocked on the door. Portland Police. We got a call about a break-in. I walked over and opened the door. Officer Martinez, someone I'd worked with on city drone projects, stepped inside with her partner. Hey, Leon. What's the situation? False alarm, Rita. My wife and her friend were just picking up some things she left here. Miscommunication about timing. Rita looked at Aubrey and Corbin, both still dressed in black, then at the crowbar on the floor near the window. That your crowbar, ma'am? Yes. I was trying to open a stuck window. From the outside? I stepped in smoothly. The latch is tricky. She was trying to help me fix it earlier. Thanks for coming out, but everything's fine here. Rita didn't look entirely convinced, but she nodded. All right. You folks have a good night, and maybe communicate better about these late-night maintenance calls. After the police left, the three of us stood in awkward silence. So, I said finally, about those deposits. What about them? Aubrey was deflated now, all the fight gone out of her. You're going to return every penny, tomorrow. I can't. I already spent most of it. On what? She gestured vaguely at her outfit, her purse, her jewelry. Things, expenses. Then you'll have to get creative, because if those clients don't get their money back by Friday, I'm sending everything I have to the state attorney general's office. You're destroying me, she whispered. No, honey. You destroyed yourself. I'm just documenting the process. Corbin grabbed Aubrey's arm. Come on. We're done here. As they reached the door, I called out, Oh, and Corbin, you might want to check your Instagram. Someone posted some interesting footage from tonight. He spun around. What footage? I held up a small drone, no bigger than my palm. Did you think the outdoor cameras were the only surveillance I had? This little guy's been following you since you left your car. The micro-drone had captured everything. Their skulking approach, the attempted break-in, even their whispered conversation about which equipment to steal first. That's illegal, Corbin shouted. Actually, it's not. Public streets, no expectation of privacy. I landed the drone on my workbench. Amazing what technology can do these days. They left without another word, but I knew this wasn't over. Desperate people don't give up easily. They just get more desperate. I was counting on it. By Thursday morning, Aubrey's world was collapsing faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. Maya texted me updates throughout the day like a war correspondent reporting from the front lines. 3 clients canceled this morning, words getting out about the deposits. Tammy's telling everyone Aubrey's broke and crazy. Corbin's girlfriend Jessica showed up. Huge fight. Aubrey locked herself in the bathroom. I was in my workshop, supposedly focused on repairing a camera gimbal for a real estate company, but really I was orchestrating the final phase of my plan. The door chimed, and Miles walked in with coffee and donuts. You look way too happy for someone going through a divorce? I'm having a good week. I accepted the coffee gratefully. How's the neighborhood gossip mill treating my situation? You're a folk hero, man. Danny's bar has been packed every night with people rehashing Friday's drama. Someone made a remix video of Aubrey's replacement speech. He showed me his phone. The video had Aubrey's voice auto-tuned over a dance beat, with clips of Corbin running away from the bar spliced in for comic effect. It had 50,000 views. This is getting out of hand, I said, but I was laughing. You started an avalanche, Leon. No stopping it now. My phone rang. Patricia Hendricks. Leon, we need to meet. Your wife's lawyer called. She got a lawyer? Brad Hoffman. He's persistent and not very bright. Can you come in this afternoon? At Patricia's office, she had a stack of papers waiting for me. Hoffman's claiming fraud, coercion, and emotional distress, she said, barely containing her amusement. He wants half your business, alimony, and damages for public humiliation. Based on what? Near as I can tell, hurt feelings and wounded pride. Patricia flipped through the documents. He's also threatening to file criminal charges for harassment and stalking. The drone footage? Among other things. He claims you've been systematically destroying your wife's reputation and livelihood. I leaned back in my chair. Have I been doing that? Well, you did publicly humiliate her, force her into a rental agreement that threatens her business, and expose her fraudulent deposit scheme. Patricia's smile was sharp. But none of that was illegal. Morally questionable, maybe. Illegal, no. So what's our response? We give them exactly what they're asking for, a public forum to air their grievances. Meaning? Court. Let them try to prove their case in front of a judge, with witnesses, evidence, and media coverage. The idea was brilliant. Aubrey wanted attention? She'd get more than she bargained for. Set it up, I said. That evening, I was closing up the workshop when Aubrey appeared at my door. She looked terrible, hair unwashed, makeup smeared, wearing the same clothes from the day before. We need to talk, she said. About what? Ending this. All of it. The divorce, the rental agreement, the social media nightmare. She stepped inside without being invited. I'll give you whatever you want. I already have everything I want. Leon, please. I'm begging you. People are calling me a fraud, a gold digger, a joke. I can't go anywhere without someone recognizing me from those videos. Sounds like a personal problem. She grabbed my arm. I'll do anything. We can go back to how things were. I'll be a better wife. I'll stop seeing Corbin. You mean you'll stop seeing him publicly, like you've been doing for months? That's over. He won't even return my calls. Of course he wouldn't. Corbin was a social media influencer who lived and gone by his image. Being associated with Portland's most mocked wife wasn't good for his brand. Here's what's going to happen, I said, gently removing her hand from my arm. You're going to return every penny of those deposits. You're going to pay your rent on time, and you're going to stop pretending you're the victim here. And if I do all that, then you can try to rebuild your life. Somewhere else. Somewhere else? Aubrey, everyone in Portland knows who you are now. Everyone knows what you did. You think that's going away? I shook my head. You wanted to be famous. Congratulations. She started crying then, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. A month ago, I might have felt sorry for her. Now I just felt tired. I never meant for it to go this far, she whispered. Yes, you did. You meant every word you said at that bar. You meant every cruel joke, every public humiliation, every time you made me feel worthless. I walked to the door and held it open. The only thing you didn't mean was getting caught. After she left, I sat in my workshop and thought about the man I'd been a month ago. Quiet, accommodating, willing to absorb whatever abuse Aubrey dished out for the sake of keeping the peace. That man was gone. In his place was someone harder, smarter, and completely done with other people's drama. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Emergency at the salon. You need to see this. I drove to Morrison Street expecting another meltdown, or maybe Aubrey trying to destroy equipment she couldn't afford to replace. What I found was worse. The salon was dark except for emergency lighting. The front window was covered with notices from the health department, the state revenue office, and the landlord, me. Maya was waiting on the sidewalk with two other stylists I didn't recognize. What happened? Health department shut us down this morning. Anonymous tip about unsanitary conditions and unlicensed chemical storage. Maya handed me a stack of violation notices. Then the state showed up asking about business licenses and tax filings. Then your property management company posted an eviction notice. I looked at the papers. Everything was legitimate. Aubrey had been cutting corners on safety regulations and hadn't filed proper paperwork for her VIP services. Where's Aubrey? Gone. Packed up her personal stuff around noon and disappeared. Left us to deal with the clients and the mess. What about the deposits? Never returned them. The clients are talking about filing a class action suit. So this was how it ended. Not with a dramatic confrontation or a final showdown, but with Aubrey running away and leaving everyone else to clean up her mistakes. Almost anticlimactic. Maya, you and the other stylists want jobs? I'm thinking about converting this space into a drone training center. Could use some people with customer service experience. Her face lit up. Seriously? Seriously, better pay, better hours, and no drama. What about Aubrey? I looked at the dark salon, at the violation notices, at the mess she'd left behind. Aubrey who? 3 weeks later, I was in my workshop when Patricia called with news. She's back, she said without preamble. Aubrey? Showed up at Hoffman's office this morning with a new strategy. She wants to contest the prenup. I leaned back in my chair. On what grounds? Fraud, duress, and mental incapacity. Claims you tricked her into signing it when she wasn't in her right mind. She insisted on the prenup. It was her idea. I know that. You know that. But Hoffman thinks he can convince a judge that you manipulated a vulnerable woman into signing away her rights. What's our response? We let them try. The prenup's ironclad, and we have documentation proving she initiated it. But Leon... Patricia's voice got serious. There's something else. Hoffman subpoenaed your financial records, business documents, and security footage from the past 6 months. So? So he's fishing, looking for anything that might support a harassment or stalking charge. The drone footage, the social media posts, the rental agreement. He's going to try to paint you as an abusive husband who destroyed his wife's life. I thought about this. When's the hearing? Next Friday. Full court proceeding, open to the public. Perfect. Perfect. Leon, they're going to try to destroy you. Let them try. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. Patricia and I went over every document, every video, every piece of evidence. She was thorough, professional, and increasingly confident. They don't have a case, she said Thursday evening, but they're going to make it ugly. How ugly? Aubrey's going to testify about your marriage, your relationship, your controlling and manipulative behavior. Hoffman's going to try to make you look like a monster. And our defense? The truth. Documentation, witnesses. Patricia smiled, and a few surprises they won't see coming. Friday morning, the courthouse was packed. Word had gotten out about the hearing, and half of Portland seemed to have shown up for the entertainment. I spotted faces from Danny's bar, the salon, even some of my business clients. Miles sat in the front row behind me, along with Maya and several other people who'd witnessed Aubrey's behavior over the past months. On the other side, Aubrey sat with Hoffman and a small group of supporters, mostly Tammy and a few salon clients who still believed her version of events. Judge Sarah Chen called the court to order. She was known for being fair, but impatient with frivolous lawsuits. Mr. Hoffman, this is your motion. Proceed. Hoffman stood up, adjusting his tie. He was younger than I'd expected, probably in his 30s, with the kind of aggressive confidence that usually masked inexperience. Your Honor, my client has been the victim of a systematic campaign of harassment, humiliation, and financial abuse. Leon Draper has used his superior resources and technical knowledge to destroy Mrs. Draper's reputation, business, and mental health. He spent 20 minutes outlining his case, the drone surveillance, the rental agreement, the social media exposure, the coordinated attack on Aubrey's livelihood. Mrs. Draper entered into her prenuptial agreement under duress, believing she was protecting assets that were rightfully hers. She was manipulated by a man who presented himself as loving and supportive, but who was actually controlling and vindictive. When he finished, Judge Chen looked at Patricia. "Ms. Hendricks?" Patricia stood calmly. "Your Honor, Mr. Hoffman has presented a compelling story. Unfortunately for his client, it's completely contradicted by the evidence." She activated a laptop connected to the courtroom's display system. "I'd like to show the court exactly how this situation began." The first video was from Danny's bar, Aubrey's replacement speech in all its cruel glory. The courtroom was silent as my wife's voice filled the room, mocking our marriage and bragging about her ability to upgrade. "This is Mrs. Draper's idea of a loving marriage," Patricia said. "Public humiliation of her husband, boasting about infidelity, and treating her spouse like a disposable commodity." Hoffman objected, but Judge Chen overruled him. "I want to see where this goes." The next video showed Aubrey and Corbin's attempted break-in at my workshop. Patricia narrated as they skulked around the building with crowbars and theft tools. Mrs. Draper claims to be a victim of harassment. This footage shows her attempting to commit felony burglary against her own husband. "Your Honor," Hoffman protested, "that footage was obtained illegally." "Actually, it wasn't," Patricia interrupted. "Mr. Draper was protecting his own property with legally installed security systems. Mrs. Draper had no reasonable expectation of privacy while committing a crime." Judge Chen made a note. "Continue." Patricia displayed bank records, business documents, and client communications showing Aubrey's fraudulent deposit scheme. Mrs. Draper collected over $15,000 from clients for services that didn't exist. When confronted about this fraud, she attempted to steal equipment from her husband's business to cover her losses. The evidence kept coming. Text messages between Aubrey and Corbin planning their affair, social media posts where she mocked our marriage, financial records showing how she'd been spending money on her lover while claiming poverty. "Your Honor, Mrs. Draper isn't a victim. She's a woman who got caught cheating, lying, and stealing, and now wants the court to bail her out of the consequences." Hoffman called Aubrey to testify. She'd cleaned herself up for court, professional clothes, subtle makeup, hair styled to look vulnerable rather than glamorous. "Mrs. Draper, please tell the court about your marriage to Leon Draper." "Leon was controlling from the beginning," she said, her voice small and shaky. "He insisted on managing all our finances, made me feel dependent on him, isolated me from friends and family." "How did he isolate you?" "He would criticize my friends, make me feel guilty for spending time away from home, monitor my activities and spending." "It was a good performance, I had to admit. If I didn't know better, I might have believed it myself." "And the prenuptial agreement?" "Leon said it was just a formality, that it would protect both of us. I trusted him. I didn't understand what I was signing away." Hoffman nodded sympathetically. "What happened when you tried to assert your independence?" "He became vindictive, used his technical skills to spy on me, turned my employees against me, destroyed my business and reputation." Aubrey dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "I made mistakes, but I didn't deserve to have my entire life destroyed." When Patricia cross-examined her, the performance fell apart quickly. "Mrs. Draper, you testified that your husband was controlling and monitored your activities. Is that why you felt free to conduct a months-long affair with Mr. Lake?" "That's not what happened." "No? Then what would you call your relationship with Mr. Lake?" Aubrey squirmed. "We were friends. He was helping with my business." "Helping with your business? At 2 a.m.? In your salon? While partially clothed?" "That's taken out of context. Mrs. Draper, I have 17 separate instances of Mr. Lake visiting your salon after hours. Security footage shows intimate contact, extended embraces, and what appears to be activity. Are you claiming this was all business consultation?" "Objection. Hoffman jumped up. Harassment. Overruled, Judge Chen said. Answer the question, Mrs. Draper. It wasn't supposed to happen. But it did happen, for months, while you were married to my client and publicly mocking that marriage. Patricia played more footage, Aubrey and Corbin together, Aubrey bragging to clients about her new man, Aubrey planning the workshop break-in. Mrs. Draper, does this look like the behavior of an abused, controlled wife? By the time Patricia finished, Aubrey was crying for real, and not in a sympathetic way. She looked exposed, humiliated, and completely defeated. Hoffman tried to salvage the situation by calling character witnesses, but they fell apart under cross-examination. Tammy admitted she'd encouraged Aubrey's affair. The salon clients acknowledged they'd never actually seen evidence of abuse. When it was our turn, Patricia called Maya to the stand. Ms. Rodriguez, how long did you work for Mrs. Draper? 2 years. During that time, did you ever see evidence that Mr. Draper was controlling or abusive toward his wife? No. Actually, it was the opposite. Leon was always supportive of Aubrey's business. He funded it, helped with marketing, even did free drone photography for her social media. What about Mrs. Draper's behavior toward her husband? Maya glanced at Aubrey, then back at Patricia. She was cruel. Constantly mocking him in front of clients, bragging about cheating on him, calling him worthless and boring. It was uncomfortable to watch. Did she ever express fear of her husband? Fear? No. She acted like he was beneath her notice. She said he was too weak and pathetic to ever stand up to her. The testimony continued for another hour. Client after client, neighbor after neighbor, all painting the same picture. Aubrey as the aggressor, me as the long-suffering spouse who finally fought back. When the evidence was finished, Judge Chen called a recess to review the materials. We waited in the hallway while she deliberated. How do you think it went? I asked Patricia. Better than I hoped. Chen's not buying their victim narrative. Hoffman approached us during the break. My client's willing to settle. She'll accept the prenup terms and drop all claims in exchange for a confidentiality agreement. Counteroffer, Patricia said. She accepts the prenup, pays court costs, and issues a public apology for her false accusations. That's not going to happen. Then we'll let the judge decide. When court reconvened, Judge Chen had clearly made up her mind. I've reviewed all the evidence and testimony in this case. Mr. Hoffman, your client's motion to invalidate the prenuptial agreement is denied. The agreement was entered into voluntarily, with full legal representation, and there's no evidence of fraud or duress. Aubrey slumped in her chair. Furthermore, I find that Mrs. Draper's claims of harassment and abuse are not supported by the evidence. In fact, the record shows a pattern of infidelity, fraud, and attempted theft on Mrs. Draper's part. Judge Chen looked directly at Aubrey. Mrs. Draper, you conducted an affair, publicly humiliated your husband, defrauded your clients, and attempted to steal from your spouse. When he defended himself and his property, you claimed to be a victim. This court does not reward that kind of behavior. The prenuptial agreement stands as written. Mr. Draper owes no alimony, no property settlement, and no damages. Mrs. Draper is responsible for her own legal fees and court costs. The gavel came down with a sharp crack. Outside the courthouse, reporters were waiting. The story had attracted media attention as a symbol of modern marriage, social media justice, and the consequences of public humiliation. Mr. Draper, how do you feel about the judge's decision? I thought about the man I'd been 6 months ago, quiet, accommodating, willing to absorb abuse for the sake of peace. Then I thought about the man I was now, confident, successful, surrounded by real friends who respected me. I feel like justice was served, I said. My ex-wife made her choices. Now she gets to live with the consequences. What's next for you? I looked back at the courthouse, where Aubrey was emerging with her lawyer and her few remaining supporters. She looked broken, defeated, and completely alone. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "I'm going back to work," I said. "I have a business to run and a life to live." As I walked away, I heard one of the reporters asking Aubrey for comment. Her response was barely audible. No comment. Miles caught up with me at my truck. "So it's really over?" "It's over." "How do you feel?" I started the engine and pulled out of the courthouse parking lot. In the rearview mirror, I could see Aubrey standing alone on the courthouse steps, watching me drive away. "Free," I said. "I feel free." 6 months later, my drone training center was thriving. Maya managed the customer service side while I handled the technical training. We had contracts with 3 police departments, 2 fire stations, and a dozen private companies. Aubrey had left Portland entirely. Last I heard, she was working at a chain salon in Phoenix, living in a studio apartment, and trying to rebuild her life under a different name. Corbin's fitness influencer career never recovered from the scandal. His girlfriend Jessica had dumped him, his sponsors had fled, and his social media following had collapsed. He was working at a big box gym now, training suburban moms for $15 an hour. As for me, I was exactly where I wanted to be, running a successful business, surrounded by people who respected me, free from drama and manipulation. Some people might say my revenge was excessive, that I destroyed 2 lives over hurt feelings and wounded pride. Those people would be missing the point. I didn't destroy Aubrey and Corbin. They destroyed themselves with their choices, their arrogance, and their complete disregard for other people's feelings. I just made sure everyone got to see who they really were, and sometimes that's justice enough.